Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video where I'm going to talk about a newly shown item. This time it's going to be from Hot Toys from their Arkham collection Harley Quinn. So this is quite exciting. When they started their Arkham figure line, I was quite excited. I bought the first 3 figures. And Harley Quinn was the one that I was most hoping that they would do going forward. There was a couple that I wanted, but Harley Quinn was the one that I wanted the most. And now we finally do have a Harley Quinn figure from the Arkham Knight series, and it looks quite good, I must say. I definitely did expect them to do the Arkham Knight Harley Quinn. They seem to just be favoring the Arkham Knight versions of these characters, and although Harley Quinn has some great looks from the other games, it just seems like the one that Hot Toys would go with. Personally, it's my second favorite of the Arkham looks. My favorite one for Harley is the Arkham Asylum one, and then I like Arkham Knight, and then Arkham City. They're all pretty good, though. You know, there's not one that I really dislike, but just that's kind of the way that I would rank the costumes and the looks. Overall, I think that this looks like a great figure. It really turned out good. Now, starting off with the face, that's the one area where I think that it could use some improving. I think that the face sculpt's good. From a lot of angles, it looks really quite good, and especially since it is based off of a video game kind of profile that has a realistic look, of course, but it's not, you know, as realistic as a human being, and therefore, I think this looks really nice. It doesn't look off to me at all, which if this was obviously based on a human, most of the time, especially for female sculpts, it will look a little bit off from Hot Toys. Sometimes they nail it even with female sculpts, but most of the time there's a little bit that's off. But this looks pretty spot on to me. My only kind of dislike or gripe with the actual face sculpt is that it's not very expressive. And when I think of Harley Quinn from Arkham especially, I think that she was the least expressive in Arkham Knight, I guess. And that might just be due to the fact that most of the posters and stuff had her very, you know, solemn or just like with a small smirk, like no huge smiles or anything like that. So maybe that's why they did go with this very, very soft expression where she has just a blank expression, but with her her right side of her lips cocked a little bit to give a little bit of a smirk, but it's not even a smirk, but it's almost hinting to a smirk. So it's a very odd expression that they did choose to go with. I don't hate it, but I do think that it's not as interesting as it certainly could be. So, you know, from the angle, it kind of almost changes her expression a little bit, but that's because it's so minute, no matter how the way you look at it. There's just not a whole bunch that's going on. But the sculpt itself and the face, I think, is quite good. The costume, I think, looks great. I love it. I think that the corset looks really awesome. The kind of tutu section, the skirt piece, I think looks really good. I like the actual small texturing in the actual like kind of white poofy areas, and then the folding in the black areas looks very good. I think that overall looks great. The poof in the shoulders looks to be the proper consistency. It doesn't look too odd, and everything is pretty solid when it comes to the costume. Big fan of the costume. Even the legs look really clean. Now I am very interested to see specifically what material those legs are, or those material for the pants are actually made of, because they look like the material that would cause huge creases whenever it's bent, and those creases would stay. However, with every single shot in these photos, there's never a crease. So I'm curious, because they do have her legs, you know, bent in some of these. So I'd be interested to see if it's a material that we're not quite expecting. It's a little more soft rather than a little like a rubberish or leatherish. It might be a little bit more just like a cloth than what it actually looks like, because it looks harder like a rubber or a leather, but it might not actually be, considering I don't see any creases, which is very good. Now, my biggest issue with this figure, hands down biggest issue, is the arms. So the arms look great. My issue, though, is that it looks like she does have rubber arms. Her right arm is 100% rubber. There's no joint there. This is the best picture where you can actually see it, where there's totally no joint. Her arm is just fully bent. Now, her left arm over here, I can't tell if it's rubber or not. I don't know what you'd call it, because it's not a glove, but the arm wrap does go past her elbow, and therefore there's no reason for it to be rubber. I would be very disappointed if it's rubber. I'm just not a big fan of using rubber joints, although they look good because they're seamless, of course. The issue with them is that they tend to crack over time. They, you know, aren't super durable, especially if you have them in extended poses. If you never pose them at all, you know, they're okay, although even without posing them, eventually they'll deteriorate. So I'm not a big fan of using actual rubber limbs, and she absolutely has a rubber right arm. Left arm, I can't tell. I've also read the description, it doesn't say, so I assume that this one is not rubber, which I think would be good. So having one rubber arm and one not, it means that for the poses, you can just make her left arm take the brunt of any pose, and her left arm can be fully bent while the other one can be extended in whatever you're doing. So that helps take some of the burden off, at least. Overall, though, I think that this does look like quite a good figure. What it comes with, quite a good selection, actually, more than I would expect. She has kind of her massive, automatic weapon that's been kind of Harley Quinnified, which I think is cool. It looks really good. She, as you can see, she can hold it quite nicely. It strikes a really nice figure with her. It obviously matches color-wise quite well. She comes with a paint can, which is an unnecessary accessory, but I kind of like the look of it. It's just something unique. I like the brush. I assume the brush is removable, so that kind of looks cool. Not necessary, but it's neat looking. The Jack-in-the-Box, which looks very nice. The kind of oversized pistol. She comes with a mallet and a bat, and then, of course, the standard base and standard set of hands. So she comes with a decent amount of stuff, to be honest. An extra head sculpt that was like super expressive would be awesome, but that's going a little bit more than I would have expected. Now, taking a look at the actual price as well as the release date. Alright, so this does retail at $266 with a release date of between June and September of 2021. So overall, the release date's okay. It's more than a year out, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's not terribly more than a year. So I think that that's okay, especially with what's happening in the world right now. That might actually cause a lot of release dates to get delayed. But nonetheless, I think the release date's okay. It's not great, but it's not horrible. The price, on the other hand, I do think is a bit overpriced. And just comparing it to the recent Harleys, the two from Birds of Prey, one is priced at $259, which is the kind of the gold jumper, and then the other one with the kind of frizzy sleeves, that one is priced more extensively at $280. So the other one comes with a lot of different clothing options, which is why it does have a higher price, and that's a little more understandable, although I do think that that one's overpriced anyway as well. But $266 I do think is pretty steep for just a regular Hot Toys figure. I thought, $220 was, I thought, probably the highest and fairest price that Hot Toys went to when it just comes to an average figure. So now it almost seems like $260 is about their average, which seems crazy, to be honest. So I do think that that is quite extensive. I definitely like to see this more, at least in the $240 range. So $266 is very extensive in my opinion. So as far as do I plan to get it, I'm not sure yet. I do really like it. Like I said, I did have the first 3 Arkham figures at one point in time. I've since then decided to sell them. I just didn't need an Arkham collection going. And those were great figures, but I was okay with selling them. Now, with this one being a character that I love so much, I'm pretty tempted to get it, to be honest. Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, and Mr. Freeze were the 3 that I really wanted. So if they were to do like Scarecrow and Mr. Freeze, I could definitely get a little bit of an Arkham collection going again, but without my other Arkham figures, it does make me pause and think about if I really need it. But I have to say, I do love this look, and even just comparing it with the Birds of Prey Harley Quinn figures, this one would probably be the one that I go with out of the 3 Harley Quinns. So overall, I think it looks like a great figure, one that I definitely need some time to think about, but I definitely might get. And yeah, overall, I think it looks quite good, other than the rubber arm and the somewhat lackluster expression. It's overall a great looking figure. So that's my thoughts on the new Harley Quinn figure from Arkham Knight. And again, if they were to do any other Arkham Harley figures, the Arkham Asylum one would be fantastic. That one, I don't care what the price would be at, I'd buy it 100%. But there you go, that's my thoughts on this new figure that's been shown from Hot Toys. Let me know what you guys think of it, and thanks so much for watching.